In this video, we're gonna cover probably the most common thing that you're gonna see with most people, which is the excessive forward lean. Now, when we're looking at the excessive forward lean, we're technically gonna be looking at two different things. We're gonna be looking at hip flexion, our ability to do this, and plantar flexion, our ability to actually move the tib and fib forward over the talus. Now, people who have issues and they're in excessive forward lean, we have to do two things. We actually have to determine whether or not it's a hip issue or whether or not it's actually an ankle issue. So the first thing that we're gonna do right now is look at how we determine if it's hip or if it's ankle. So Sarah's gonna come over here and demonstrate to us an amazing, perfect overhead squat. And I'm being extremely sarcastic. But you know what? It's actually perfect that you're seeing this because this is exactly what's gonna happen most of the time. Now let's go into our overhead squat position for us. Hands up, TVA activated, pelvis rotation, excellent. Drop down nice and low. And we have our lean. Now, what I want you to try doing, and I'd recommend you do this with your clients. Do me a favor, stand up, Sarah. Ask your client to squat without their knees going forward. So I'm gonna place my hand on Sarah's knee right now. Go ahead and squat and don't let your knees come forward. What automatically starts to happen? Her hips start to go back and her upper body has to lean to maintain her center of gravity. So commonly, do that one more time. Commonly when we see people squatting like this, it's their inability for their knees to track over the toes and give them the proper mechanics to squat. So the way that we're gonna determine right now whether or not this is gonna be a hip issue or an ankle issue is we're actually gonna take the ankle out of the equation. Now you can use some 45-pound plates. I've got a trusty 2x4 I just happen to carry with me everywhere I go. We're gonna elevate the heels. Now everything else is gonna be the same. Hands up, toes straight, proper activation from the hips, and we're gonna see if this actually improves. So squat down for us. Okay, now come back up. I wanna show you the comparison. Lift up your heels. Now we're gonna be using two dowels here. When we're in a proper squat positioning, the tib angle and the upper body angle should be parallel. Let's see how parallel this is right now. Go ahead and go into a nice deep squat for us. So if I've got a little lower, little lower, little lower, look at this angle right now. The actual angle crosses at the shoulder. They should be parallel. Let's see if we can get this corrected by taking the ankles out of the equation. So again, heels up, great. Now when Sarah goes into her squat, go ahead. Let's look at this angle now. So the angle of the shins and the angle of the torso has dramatically improved. Now these lines aren't crossing. So when you have someone, thanks Sarah, when we have someone that's going to be going into an excessive lean, step number one, what's causing that? So what are the muscles necessary? Well, if it's the hip, we got TFL, psoas, rectus fem, adductors. If it's ankle related, we're looking at gastroc and soleus. How do we determine whether it's hip or ankle? We elevate the heels and see if that solves the problem. Now there are times where it can improve the problem, but doesn't solve it. Then we have both of these that we have to look at. If the ankle solves the problem completely, then I would put them under the corrective protocol for the ankle. This isn't the issue. Now, when we're going through the blues, once again, we're looking at the muscles responsible that are gonna be shortened and overactive. This side, we work on the release, mobilization, and stretching. And as we do that, we also have to make sure that we do the activation for the antagonist or the opposing muscle group. If it's gastroc and soleus, we're working on the anterior tib. If it's hip flexion, hip extension, we're making sure that we're doing activation for the glute max. There's that max again, like the other videos. The semis, tendinosis, membranosus, the bicep femoris, and the adductor magnus.